Hey, hi guys, hello friends. Hey, I'm having a really bad allergy day, so I haven't been crying. I'm just like puffy. I'm just allergic. I'm not crying. I wanted to come on here and talk to you guys about planning your week since it is Monday. I put up a thread and I'm just gonna try and slowly kind of go through the questions day by day. So if you want me to speak on a topic or you're struggling with something, put the comment under my thread I made and I will get your question eventually. I'm gonna just try to answer like one or two questions quickly throughout the week. And that way, if I don't have time to do like an hour Q&A for you guys on Friday anymore, your questions will still get answered. And I think that's just a little bit better for me and my energy, and it's probably a little bit easier for you guys to find things as well. So I'm just gonna try and do it that way instead of doing the long Q&As. Not that I won't do long Q&As, but you know. So if you have any questions, I would love to answer them. Just put them in the thread. But I thought I would talk to you guys about planning your week because I've had a couple people talking about planning and time management, and there's so much to do as a blogger, and it's so hard to know where to focus, and it's so hard to know kind of where the leverage points are. And people ask me all the time how I plan my time. And I have a couple other videos about this. I did one about how I use my bullet journal to organize. I did another one about planning, like time planning. I did one about how I set my quarterly goals. So go back and watch some of those other videos if you're wanting more clarity. If you haven't done any quarterly planning, I highly, highly suggest you do that. If you're feeling overwhelmed, it's probably because you don't have a focus. And so I want you guys to start thinking about planning your week based on an outcome. Like, what outcome do you want this week? If you don't know what outcome you want, you're gonna have a really hard time knowing how to schedule your time. So the first thing I would suggest you do is do your quarterly plan or monthly plan or whatever, but you need to have an outcome focused plan. You need to know what you're trying to do, right? Before you know how to spend your time, you have to know what you're trying to do. I like quarterly goals. I made a free quarterly goal planner. It's back in the group. If you can't find it, tag me and I'll give you guys the link. But it's really helpful for me. It's literally a spreadsheet I fill out every quarter, and it has, the beginning of the month, the middle of the month, the end of the month for 3 months. So July, August, September, I know exactly what I'm doing and focusing on in July. And then I know exactly what I'm doing the first 10 days of July, what I'm doing, right? And I break the quarter like that. So it's basically in 10-day chunks all the way through. What do you want to do the beginning of July, the middle of July, the end of July? What do you want to do the beginning of August, the middle of August, the end of August? What are you trying to get done by the end of this quarter? At the end of 90 days, where do you want to be? I personally do. You don't have to do how I do, like at all, but that's how I do it. And I like doing it in quarters. I feel like it's a short enough time that I work with a sense of urgency, but it's long enough time that I can do big projects and not feel completely overwhelmed. So that's the first thing. You need to know what you're trying to do before you schedule your time, okay? So once you kind of know your bigger outcome, right? What I would have you do is go into Google Calendar and block your work hours. When are you gonna work this week? You need to block what time are you going to commit to sitting down. Are you going to work Tuesdays and Thursdays? Are you going to work 7 days a week? Are you going to work Saturday and Sunday? What days are you going to work and what time? And you need to block your time. And this is a little bit of like tough love. But guys know I'm just going to tell you what I think. And the reason I think a lot of people struggle to make this into a job is they don't treat it like a job. They do not treat it like a job. If you want this to turn into a job, if you want this to turn into an income, you have to treat this as a job, and you have to be accountable to it as a job. And I know that it's hard, like I understand, and I have a lot of empathy for that, right? I used to work a 40 to 50 hour a week job also, and have to do this on the side. And I understand that it's a hard season to be in. I understand that when you're working a job and trying to build the blog, and a lot of you guys have kids and everything going on, that it's a hard season to be in. But you have to be accountable to your future self. What is your future self going to wish you had done? And you really need to set work hours that you set and are accountable to every week. And you need to show up to it like a job. And you need to give yourself deadlines like a job. Because if you can't do it now, it's going to be really hard once you do get full time. Things only get kind of progressively crazier and more difficult to manage, to be honest with you. So you've got to be able to put yourself on deadlines. You've got to be able to get things done in a timely manner. You've got to be able to stick to a schedule. or you just will never be able to stay on top of things. Does that make sense? So that's the first thing. So figure out your goals, like your quarterly goal, and then sit down and figure out your work schedule. What days are you going to work, and when are you going to be accountable for those work hours on your blog? And block them out. I use Google Calendar, so I'm just going to use that as an example. Whatever planner you use doesn't matter, but block out how many hours you're going to work each week and when they are. And then what I would have you do is just brain dump all of the things like you would like to do on the blog. It doesn't matter, just get them all out of your brain, because you do not want to be holding information in your brain, right? That's one of the things I do and I believe about ideas is we have to free up space and capacity in our brains. So that's why I write everything down, and I have that whole video about bullet journaling if you want to look at that, but it doesn't matter, just get it all out of your brain. You know, I would do Instagram posts, I would do the podcast, I would do pins, I would do this, I would do that. Just write down everything you would do. And then look at that list of tasks and look back at your outcome you made. When you planned out your quarter, what outcome were you trying to get? What are you trying to do, right? Don't plan your time until you know what you're trying to do. And then look at your list and ask yourself, what are the 3 most important things on that list based on the outcome you're trying to get, right? And so my things are going to be different. If I'm trying to get traffic, it's going to be different than if I'm trying to build my email list, right? If I'm trying to build my email list, I'm going to be making new opt-ins. I'm going to be trying new forms. I'm going to be doing all these things. If I'm trying to do traffic, I'm going to be making a lot of blog posts. I'm going to be making a lot of pins, right? So it depends on your outcome. What outcome are you trying to get? You need to razor focus on an outcome, because what happens to a lot of people, I think what happens is people aren't focused on the outcome. They just see all these tasks and then it's like, well, I don't know where to start, right? It depends what task you're going to do based on what outcome you're trying to get, right? And I'm always very aware. I honestly prioritize my tasks based on income. I'm very, very aware at what projects of mine are passion projects and what projects of mine pay my bills, right? I have a lot of passion projects, I'm sure, as you guys can imagine, like this Facebook group. This Facebook group makes me $0 basically a month, right? Every once in a while someone uses an affiliate link, and that's lovely and great, and I super appreciate it, right? But it's not paying my bills. But I love it, right? And I love doing it, and I'm gonna keep doing it. But if I'm looking at my schedule, if I look at my Google Calendar and it is full, right? This is gonna not be the first thing I schedule on my blocks of time, right? I have working hours for my blog and my different businesses on my Google Calendar. And so this is not gonna be the first thing I schedule, right? I'm gonna schedule the things that are moving me towards my outcome in my business, right? I do not schedule passion projects until my other projects are done and I know I'm gonna have time to do the things that pay my bills, because I'm very aware if I can't pay my bills, I can't do the passion projects, right? I can't do this Facebook group. I can't do the podcasts. I can't do, my Instagram, the things I love to do that don't pay my bills, right? I have to do the bill paying things first to do my passion projects. So that's kind of how I schedule my time. I prioritize my time based on being able to pay my bills, right? First and foremost. So if you're not making a full-time income off your blog, that's totally fine, but schedule it based on that outcome. What outcome are you trying to get, right? I'm trying to get my bills paid. That's like my first outcome, right? But then I have other goals too, around opt-ins, around traffic, around email, and I'm always focused on one at a time. I'm never focused on more than one outcome, right? So how I kind of do it is, last quarter, a big push of mine was for traffic. So I was only focusing on traffic during that time. Like I wasn't building courses. I wasn't doing opt-ins, right? I was working on things that would build me traffic. And when I would write out my list of things I wanted to do, I would look on there and be like, which of these things on this list are going to bring me traffic? And then look at your working hours and schedule blocks of time to do those tasks during the time you're going to work, right? So you know when you're going to do each thing. You don't want to sit down to work and be like, oh my God, what do I do? Or you sit down and you start working on the wrong thing. I am very idea oriented and very passion oriented. So if I do not have a plan and I sit down at my computer, who knows what I will end up working on, right? Who knows? I'll end up counseling like someone for free. I'll end up, spending 10 hours on email. My time will just be gone. So I have to be very intentional when I sit down. I already know from now until the rest of the week exactly what I'm going to be doing when. That's how detailed I have to be, because I have to make myself be focused, right, on the outcome. Yes, girl, me too. Yeah, it's very hard to stay focused, right? So scheduling this out is what helps me. So I hope that helps you guys. But know your outcome, right? Stay laser focused on the outcome. You don't have to do all the things, right? You don't have to be building the email list. I mean, there's a certain amount of stuff I have to do all the time, right? But I'm not focusing on growing my email list, growing my traffic, making products. I'm not pushing on all of those things at the same time. Mostly I'm just sustaining my business and growing one part, right? I'm just keeping everything kind of steady, and then I'm pushing hard on one thing. I'm pushing on opt-ins. I'm pushing on my email list. I'm pushing on revenue. I'm pushing on products, like whatever it is, right? Right now I'm building out my product line. That is a priority. So I'm not going to be like, pushing on traffic and email and all this different stuff, right? So focus on your outcome. Do one thing at a time. Does that make sense? And then look at your tasks and ask yourself, of the tasks, of all of the things on your list of things you want to get done, which of those are going to help your outcome? And then schedule your time and then hold yourself accountable, right? And so that's how I do it. And I hope that kind of helps you guys and gives you some ideas of sitting down. But if you don't have a schedule, I was very resistant to having a schedule because I'm a creative and I'm like, I worked out of my 9-to-5 job and I want freedom and all this stuff. But the thing is to be your own boss, you have to be accountable for your time, right? And I realize I'm not good at being accountable for my time. I'm very good at just having time be gone, right? I'm always busy, I'm always doing stuff, but it's not necessarily doing things that will move my business forward, right? That are gonna grow my business. So having a schedule and sticking to it really, 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 really has helped me grow my business. And I think if I had done that earlier on, I think I would have been way better off and found success a lot faster than I did, to be honest with you. So those are my tips and tricks, I guess, just for scheduling. It's nothing groundbreaking, but I really think the trick is knowing the outcome. What are you trying to do? You can't schedule your time if you don't know what you're trying to do, right? I mean, what I mean? It's what are you trying to do? And then ask yourself, to reach this goal, what needs to happen? And then schedule the time in your blocks. And then having working hours will help you too, because it's okay, if I have more things I want to do than will fit in my blocks, something's got to go, right? And it's what can go off the chopping block, and I kind of have in my mind all the time, my priorities of the things that have to get done to pay the bills versus the things that are just fun to do. And if I have a crazy week, those passion projects get chopped right off. There were no podcasts from me last week on any platform, right? Because podcasts make me $0 at any of my podcasts, my mental health podcast, this podcast, right? And I had a busy, crazy week, and it was just there's no podcast this week, and it is what it is. Next week, hopefully this week there'll be podcasts, but I don't have any guilt about that, right? It's I try to make as much content as I can and serve as many people as I can, but I can't do that if I'm not paying my bills first, because if I can't pay my bills, I won't have time to work for myself and there will be no podcasts ever again, right? So it's I have to always be focused and realize that sometimes I have to cut things out so that I can sustain this business. I need to get my husband more on board with a schedule. He will follow me from room to room as I try to escape. Yeah, set work hours. Think about, you have to treat it like a job. I'm at work. You really got to kind of hammer that into him. I'm in my office. It's probably a little easier for me. Well, I live by myself, but my family does stay here a lot, and I have a very loud family. Those of you that have been following me have heard them on live stream when they're visiting. If anybody else has a loud family, you know what I mean. But I've had to train them, when I'm in my office, I am at work. I am working. I'm at work. I'm on a call. I'm just you have to act they don't really understand the internet. So I'm just pretend I'm on the phone all the time. You know what I mean? It's don't come in my office. But yeah, I mean, you might have to set some boundaries around that and show him the schedule. These hours, these 2 hours, it would really help me if I can just be undistracted for these 2 hours on these days, and explain to him why. I need focused time because I'm trying to do this and this. I need focused time, and this is when it's gonna be, and this is what I'm doing, and this is why I need to be focused, and maybe try that, and just, get him on board, or just tell him, right? Just leave me alone. I love the idea of working hours. Yeah, and the other thing that's important about working hours that I found is you have to have a time to stop working, right? You have to have a time to stop working. Even though I love my business, and I feel I could work all the time, it's very, very unhealthy, and it's very easy to feel like you should be working all the time. Just work your 2 hours and then be done. And you don't have to feel that guilt of I should be working on the blog, I should be making videos, I should be doing all these things, because there's always gonna be more to do. There's never gonna be a point as a business owner where you are done at the day and you're like, everything is done. I've completed all of my work. It's like, you know, these are my hours. I'm going to sit down. I'm going to work focused for 2 hours. I'm going to close my computer. I lock my computer in my office. I wish I was making that up. But I have to, like, at the end of the day, like when I'm done with my last working block, I literally shut the door of my office with my laptop in there. And sometimes I'll put my cell phone in the drawer in the kitchen because I just have to have like distance away from the business. Because if my laptop is out, it's like inevitable, you know, amount of time before I'll just open it to look at one thing. And then the next thing I know, I've been working another 40 minutes or something. And it's not working in a way that's focused, right? I'm just on the internet talking to people, answering comments, doing whatever, but I'm not really focusing on my business, right? So when I'm at my computer, I really try to make that time like I'm focused on my business. I know my outcome. I know what I'm doing. I'm going to work on this project for an hour, for 2 hours, however long my block is, however long I've scheduled out. And then I'm going to do my next project or talk to my client or close my computer, right? But the internet is so vast and it's such a time suck, right? And social media is such a time suck. It's so easy to sit down at your computer, you know, and just get in a Facebook group and suddenly 30, 40 minutes is gone. And I'm guilty of it. I do it all the time. So I'm not like here to judge anybody, you know, but those working hours give me a time where it's like, I know what I'm doing when I'm sitting down to do this project at this time, and that's all I'm doing. And I turn social media off. I try not to have it open, right? I used to do, oh my gosh, I can't think of the time. It starts with a P, Pomodoro. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? I have an app on my phone and it's, you work 20 minutes and then you take 10 minutes off. So I would work 20 minutes really focused, and then 10 minutes I would basically screw off on social media, and then I would work 20 minutes focus and then 10 minutes off. And that used to work really well for me. I've kind of gotten away from that. Lately, I've just been really into doing an hour or 2 hours, just sit down and like work really hard. That's what's been feeling good to me. But if you're having a hard time focusing or making yourself do a project, that's a really good way to do something you don't want to do, because you're like, okay, I only have to work, you know. And you can do shorter blocks too if you want, if 20 minutes even is too long. But the point is to sit down and be focused, right? If you have an end time, things take the amount of time that you give yourself to do them. Someone said that to me and I was like, oh, that's so true, right? Because if I give myself all day to do a task, it will take me all day. But if I'm like working with a sense of urgency and I'm like, I have an hour, I have to do this now, this is my working time, a lot of times that task will only take 20 or 30 minutes, right? So it depends, like how long something takes you depends on how long of a time you give yourself to do it. Does that make sense? So that's why I like doing the schedule where it's like blocks of time, and that kind of keeps me working with a sense of urgency. Okay, all right. I hope this helps you guys. I'm going to get off of here. I hope you guys have a good day. If you have any questions about any of this, leave me a comment. If anything I say helps you guys and you're watching the replay later or whatever, leave a heart, leave a comment. It really helps motivate me to keep coming on here when I know people are watching these. I'm not just talking to no one. So it really means a lot to me when you guys comment. And yeah, I just love this community so much. So I'll talk to you guys soon. Let me know if you need anything, and have a good day.